Okay, our last topic, cancer. Or second to last topic, cancer. Everyone at some point is touched by cancer. Every single one of my grandparents that has died from cancer. Most likely all of you know someone that has died from cancer or has been affected in some way by cancer. It is the most common condition. But what is it? What is cancer? Well, cancer can be many things. It's many diseases that all share the umbrella of cancer, but they all share the same condition, the same problem. It's a problem of mitosis, of cell division, of DNA replication and cell division. It's basically a cancer is uncontrolled cell division. When cells divide and they don't stop dividing, that's cancer. The causes for cancer can be many. There are viral cancers, so certain viruses can trigger cancer. HPV is a virus that is a danger for you guys, that affects you guys. Hopefully you guys get that. Canada gives out the HPV vaccine at some point where you guys enter high school or in late elementary school, because how viruses work is they hijack your cells machinery, protein synthesis machinery, but sometimes how they do that is they hide themselves inside your DNA. And when they do that, some of these cancers are carcinogenic or oncogenic, and what happens is they damage your DNA when they hide in there and trigger cancer. The HPV is like that. Some cancers are acquired, what we call acquired. So HPV, for example, a cancer cause will be acquired. Remember we talked about acquired mutations, and that's what cancer is a mutation of specific genes in your DNA that regulate mitosis, regulate cell division. So they can be acquired. So you can get cancers from the sun. That's acquired. The sun is shining on you. You can get cancer from cigarettes because you are exposed over a long period of time to mutagens that are changing your DNA and triggering cancer. So lung cancer, all these other cancers. You can have cancers that are inherited. You can inherit cancer, germline cancers. So basically, there is a mutation in the genes that regulate mitosis in your parents' sex cells. Your parents are more predisposed to cancer, and so these mutations are passed on, and they're passed on to every single cell in your body. Germline mutations, remember, every single cell. So you have a greater likelihood of getting cancer. The regulation of mitosis isn't just one gene; it's a family of genes. So you might not get cancer right away, but some of these genes might be damaged or not working as they are, and then it doesn't take much to push them over into malfunctioning and triggering cancer, triggering tumors, if you have these germline mutations. Therefore, you are predisposed for cancer. That's what it means when people say you're predisposed to cancer. You have a family history of cancer. Most likely, as a result, you are predisposed to cancer because you have these germline mutations. So what are these genes? Well, there's two types of genes. Number one are proto-oncogene. Oncogenic, onco refers to cancer. That is, refers to cancer. So these genes were were discovered when people were studying cancer. So they gave them cancer names. They gave them but these genes, that's not their function. Their function isn't cancer. Their function isn't oncology, is the study of cancer. But their function is to regulate mitosis. This should be called a mitosis regulator. But anyways, a proto-oncogene, proto, it means before, is a normal gene. So proto-oncogene is before you have cancer. So this is just a normal gene. These are the genes you have. They're called proto-oncogenes. The gene regulating mitosis. And what these genes is, they regulate mitosis. So basically they say, now is the time to start mitosis. So start cell division. They go, start cell division now. And they are also, there's a whole family of them. They also regulate the speed at which cell division happens so that it doesn't happen too quickly. So, you know, the DNA gets replicated correctly. All the organelles move to their sides. Everything happens in a smooth, controlled manner. That's what proto-oncogenes do. Now, if they mutate, if they are damaged, and they don't work as they should, they become oncogenes. And oncogenes, what they do, instead of regulating mitosis in a nice orderly fashion, when they're broken, when they're oncogenes, basically they just go divide, 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 divide. They are just screaming for the cells to divide. They're not doing it in an organized, well-controlled manner. These would be what are called aggressive tumors. Essentially what happens to the cell is all it does is divide, and it doesn't do it well. So it stops doing the thing that it was doing. If these are important cells, if these are in your brain, for example, your brain cells just start dividing. You get a brain tumor like that, an aggressive brain tumor. It starts taking up space in your brain, which is bad for your brain, and then those cells stop working, doing what they're supposed to do. Any tissue, so cancer, skin cells that become you can have these awful tumors, you know, they're like pussy, bloody tumors. These cells stop being skin cells. All they become are dividing cells. So basically they just copy their DNA, some mitochondria, whatever they can. They whatever word, barely anything, and they barely do anything else except divide. So this is what happens when a proto-oncogene turns into an oncogene, and the message to divide just goes crazy. That's the first kind of these genes. The second kind of these genes is called a tumor suppressor gene. Again, these genes were discovered while people were studying cancer, so they got a name like tumor suppressor, but they're not a cancer gene. They're normal gene, and all this gene is, whereas proto-oncogenes said start mitosis, tumor suppressor genes, what they do is they say stop mitosis. That's what that gene does. That's what they regulate. They regulate. They make you stop. And this works in tissues, and they work so for when tissues are growing or regenerating themselves. It's so that your tissues don't become too big. If the tissue of your tongue, the cells in your tongue divide, they get to a certain size. A tumor suppressor gene goes, enough. The tongue is big enough. You can stop now. However, if this gene is mutated, it doesn't say stop. It doesn't work. So your tongue just keeps dividing. Now, I don't know how likely tongue cancer like that is. But, for example, leukemia is an example of that, because this isn't, your blood cells aren't a tissue per se, but you make white blood cells in your bone marrow, and tumor suppressor genes control how many white blood cells you make so that you don't make too many. But if that gene is broken, you just continue making white blood cells. Now, unlike proto-oncogene cancers, these cells still do what they do. Because they're still cells. Mitosis is still in a controlled manner. It just doesn't stop. So there's still white blood cells, but now you have way too many white blood cells, and it damages your blood's ability. Your blood is now full of white blood cells. Your blood, the balance of what's in your blood is very carefully controlled by your body. You don't need all of these white blood cells. It doesn't make your immune system better. So that's what happens with a tumor suppressor gene. A tumor caused by a tumor suppressor gene often are benign, what we say are benign, because they are just basically like too much of that tissue growing. So a thickening of the skin, a weird mole, that might be often because of a tumor suppressor gene malfunctioning. Whereas proto-oncogenes, that tissue loses its function. It just becomes a tumor, an ugly tumor. The last thing I'm going to say here is a function of cancers, and these will be these kind of proto-oncogene cancers the bad ones, the really bad ones. So these would be aggressive. These would not be benign. These would be, what's the word that they use? I blocked it out of my mind because I'm all, I'm a Mr. Case at that age where everything is like, oh, I've got a lot of acquired mutations and only getting more. My parents have a lot of acquired mutations and they love living outside. Worried about those things. Anyways, cancers can metastasize, and that is a very bad thing. So these cells, these tumors mainly from these proto-oncogene cancers, they lose all of their function. They lose their ability. So there are these crazy cells inside your tissue, inside your liver or wherever, dividing. And remember when we talked about cell membranes, we talked about peripheral proteins. And we talked about that peripheral proteins, what they can help is attach cells to each other. So you have a cell and then you've got these peripheral proteins and they hook together so that these cells stay together. So your tissues have these peripheral proteins and they stick. That's how your cells stick together, how your organs keep together. If you didn't have your peripheral proteins, your organs, the cells would just kind of fall apart. Well, these tumors, because all they're doing is just saying divide, they do not make very good of peripheral proteins, maybe not at all. And so they lose what is called, it's got a name here, it's in the notes, they don't have contact inhibition. I don't know what that sounds like. It sounds like they run naked through the streets or something. Or I don't know, they are really those people that are really touchy-feely that give hugs to everybody. That's a person with contact inhibition. Anyways, or the person that lacks contact inhibition. But anyway, what it means is that they don't attach to the tissue that they're growing in, and as a result, they say they start inside your muscle or start inside some kind of tissue. If it's close to your lymph or your blood, your circulatory system, they are not attached. They're not married to that place. They don't have those proteins, so they can metastasize. That's what it means. It means they can go traveling. They can enter your lymph or they can enter your circulatory system and now travel and spread through your body and start new tumors in other places. And that is a very unfortunate thing that does happen. That is why we want to detect tumors as early as possible before they can metastasize, before they can move out of the tissue that they're in and into the circulatory system and start spreading. So that's cancers. Kind of a bummer topic, but now that you understand a little bit more about them, I don't know if you'd be less scared of them, but at least you understand them better, and knowledge is power.